Okay, so we ready?
Yep.
Okay. Call to order the Board of Education Committee as a whole meeting for September 28, 2023. The Board of Education makes available at least one current copy of the Open Meetings Act, which is posted on the west wall of the meeting room and accessible to members of the public. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I move that the Board of Education District 15 approve the agenda as presented.
A second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the first thing we're going to talk about is the elementary strategic plan, site plan. Mrs. Ruffogel and Mr. Jansen.
Good evening.
Thank you.
You want us to sit?
It's whatever you're most comfortable with.
You want to sit?
I want to stand.
Thank you. Me too.
I
We
don't like
don't
to
sit very much, so
Yeah.
sitting's not comfortable for us. Well, we work on this together because, as you all know, next year there will be one elementary building, so everything that we do, we try to do together so that the transition is that much more smooth. So we're moving together towards new beginnings in one school.
Yeah, our first one is the strategy 2, which really focuses on our mental health. And we just wanted to give you an update, how much of an impact that Dr. Horton has through the Beatrice Community Hospital, coming in, working with our teaching staff, as well as with our students, and then also with parents. She's come in on morning meetings as well. That's been a huge asset, as well as our ESU 5 with our mental health counselor, Sarah. She's phenomenal. We have a wait list for her. And then our guidance counselors, our school counselors have been working with Second Steps, which works on the skills for learning, empathy, emotional management, problem solving with STEP, say the problem, think of the solutions, explore consequences, and then pick the best solution. So they've really been going through that, trying to help our kids, because as you know, mental health is such a huge thing right now, just trying to help them work through issues that are happening at school, both at home. But like we said, we have a wait list with our mental health. It's a huge need, but Dr. Horton has been amazing, as well as Ms. Sarah from ESU 5.
All right, our next action step is we will provide these research-based instructional learning strategies to meet the needs of each student's their unique learning needs. And we're continuing our work on PBIS approach throughout the schools in developing a positive learning environment. Thanks to Missy, she's helped a lot with Dan St. Romain, but all 4 buildings are doing a book read and watching lessons from Cultivating Culture, which is from Dan St. Romain. What all of the teachers and all the buildings are working on is to promote the use of common language, develop strategies to use in the classroom, problem-solving techniques, expectations throughout the elementary buildings, pre-K-5. They meet weekly by Zoom and taking classes based on the book Positive Behavior Principles. We think this is so important, instead of each one of us doing our own thing, because next year they will all be together, and regardless of whose classroom a child is in, who is their teacher, they would have had this year the exact same approach to positive behavior and how we would go through all those steps. So it's working great, and the teachers are working great together at their district PLC meetings, and then within our own building on our PLC days.
Our preschool's way ahead of us in it, so Missy's been a huge asset to that, to help Betty and myself get our teachers caught up as best as we can to do it. Mr. St. Romain, Dan St. Romain's coming here in October, so we're excited for that as well. And then out of our committees that we made based on Dan St. Romain and also Chad coming in, we came up with a problem-solving matrix for our K-5 buildings, just to help our teachers hold them accountable for what their strategies they're using and what they're doing before they start the MTSS process, the SAP process, or trying to identify misfed. We really want to dig into the data and say, what are you doing well, what are we not doing well, before we just qualify somebody or ask Beth to have them tested, because we have such a long wait list. We need to make sure our teachers are doing their jobs, so this is just holding them accountable. So,
And one of the things about this, it's really what the teachers are doing, but now it's documented.
it's documented.
And so they have evidence of what they're putting together before a child is referred for special education.
Any questions for us? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good.
Now middle school, Mr. Hakey, let's see if you get that.
We get color copies this time.
Oh, they got colored copies.
No, I got color copies. I splurge on color copies. I use Danielle's code.
It's gonna be up on the board, so. I'm gonna sit down. All right, good evening. We've got 3 goals that we're gonna focus on for the strategic plan this year. First one is recruit highly qualified teachers to replace anticipated retirements this school year. That's strategy 3. Goal 2 is develop grade level meetings to discuss student academic, behavioral, mental health needs, strategy 2.2. Then our third goal is to decrease minor and major behavioral infractions from the last school year, that's strategy 5.2. So we'll go a little in depth in those and try to keep it concise. So 3.1, we're anticipating several retirements at the middle school this year, and quite a few of them in pretty hard areas to refill. So we're going to be attending multiple job fairs. Missy and Beth went out to UK. We're going to go to UNL. We're looking also at some of the universities in Kansas as well as South Dakota to try to just get Beatrice out there and advertise our position. We're going to look at developing a recruiting video for the middle school. Just kind of tells our story, what we're about, to increase some publicity. And the last one is working with our current staff that we know are retiring. A lot of them have been there for a long time, and trying to create that partnership with them of allowing Craig and I to have the ability, if we were to find a teacher, to offer a contract sooner than any other district. So working with our teachers, if they're ready and willing and able to put in those the paperwork to allow us to have the ability to offer a contract for next year, we're going to try to work with our teachers on that. They've responded well to that. So next one is strategy 2.2. 10, 12 years ago, I don't know, it's probably been longer than that, with middle school, went away from the team concept due to a reduction in force. One of the things that fell away was our grade level team meetings. And so what happened with that in the past was every day the teachers on the grade level, 6th grade team, got to meet together, talk about student concerns academically, behaviorally, socially, etc. We haven't been able to do that in the last, we haven't done it. We've this year figured out a way to do that. So we're using our second PLC of the month to bring back our grade levels. The reason for that is we have 6th grade teachers that are clear across the building or on different floors and don't have an opportunity to talk with each other about those same students if they're cross-curricular, math to science or social studies, etc. So we're putting everyone in the same room once a month to talk about student concerns, and then so we're not having anyone fall through the cracks. Trying to shore that up, and we've done that one time, and it's been successful so far, and we'll continue that through the year.
Our next goal is goal 3, is decreasing minor and major behavior infractions from the 22-23 school year. So last year was year 1 with PBIS, completely tier 1. All kids get the same message, same procedures of what's expected out of middle school. This year we're focusing not only on that tier 1, but the higher advanced tier 2, tier 3, where tier 1's not working for, it's working for 80% of the kids, but we need something for the higher students that need a little bit more support. So continue to look at data. We created our baseline last year of majors and minors, what's going on, where it's taking place. It gives us hey, we're having a lot of issues in the lunchroom. We need to adjust something that we're doing in the lunchroom, so behaviors are decreasing there. I know today we shared data school-wide, which is pretty exciting. We shared it last year, and like last year at this time we had 37 majors. Today we had 9 majors for the middle school, and approximately 216 stop forms for minors last year. This year it's down to about 106 minors. So I know we're only 7 weeks into the school year, but it's looking like it's working so far. Continue with the house system where we I have worked with a lot of local businesses with that reward system for kids that earn their house points. We also went to Lincoln and did some stores in the south part of Lincoln that were very receptive and donated like gift certificates or coupons or stuff, and the students are very excited to get their little student wallets up and going. So that's goal 3 is our overall behavior that we continue to work on. So we're feel pretty confident that we're about 90% into that. So that's just continued progress, and we'll continue to monitor that with the behavior data.
Any questions for us?
How's your video going?
How's the mini mart going? Great question. We had today the Lions Club, Rotary, and the Kiwanis had a little competition amongst themselves to do a food drive, and I think Rotary won. But they brought all the food to our mini mart today, and they got to explore and do a little photo op with Officer Nesbitt and so forth, and she explained how it all works. So we just actually got it off the ground this week, and there's been a lot of traffic in there, which is good. There's a need for it, and we have a couple more that students that have inquired if they can go tomorrow, and absolutely so.
So on that strategy 3.1, it's at 40%. So what does that exactly mean?
40% meaning
Like have you
we're-
been into a couple fairs or, I mean?
I'm going to one next week.
Okay.
Missy and Beth went to one last week. 40%, we haven't developed the video yet. You know, that's something we want to get produced, get that all compiled. So really that's, do we feel we're there to have everything ready to roll? We haven't attended every fair we can and so forth. So that's one that by the time we get to February, I'd like to see nearing that, 90, 100% where we have everything in our disposal open to offer contracts and have the marketing video there and things like that. So.
Okay.
When teachers retire, how many of them stay on as substitutes or some other way? Stay
Good question.
involved with the school?
A lot of them do, but they have to sit out 180 days. So from the time that they retire, Jason can give you more information on that. But so we can't confirm, them to come back prior to them having a 180-day break without any, contractual agreement to return. And so I would like to think the ones that are retiring may have an interest. It would help us out a lot, but we can't put anything in writing or even have any informal agreement. So
How many retirements are you looking at?
for sure 4 right now. Yep, and I don't want to go into specifics because of the departments, but one for sure is math opening, and then there'll be a couple hard to replace. And we still had a special education position that we weren't able to hire last year, so that one's still open. So we'll have some curricular areas that are difficult to find. So the earlier the better for us because we're competing against everybody.
Thank you.
Yep. Thanks, guys.
David, did you have a question about 180?
Yeah, for some reason I thought they had waived that maybe they did during COVID or for a year.
Yep, there was a year where they said subs could come back.
Yeah.
They gave kind of a flexibility time period, but the 180 days is set by the state, and now they've said that a substitute could sub 8 days per year after in that 180-day window. So, yeah, eight whopping days. So
Yeah,
Per month.
90 of those are summer.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it's from the day you retire, so.
But yeah, for some reason I thought that still was in effect. But
So it's a calendar day, so
It's
they can
actually
come back in the
Yeah.
second semester basically.
They can come back November, I think, because
Yeah.
it's a day in November.
Yeah. So, and it all depends on when they let the retirement off, well, what their last day is, what they put down, so that it all starts clicking. But the state has become very strict on it, so.
Because it's really awkward, like if you're a fall coach, you have to sit out if you're a winter coach. There's no impact.
And it's 8 days per month, so.
So during that 180 days, they can teach 8 days a month.
Right,
No, 8 days total, is that what you're saying, or 8 days a month?
That's 8 days a month.
a month.
Oh,
Yeah.
But per total, like, if I sub one at Tri-County and 3 here, like, it is 8 total,
Oh.
not 8 per district.
I wonder, is it, yeah, they have gotten a lot stricter because when I retired, they pay, like, the subs were found by an outside firm, so I could sub every day
Yeah.
because I wasn't being paid by the district, you know, and I don't think they really checked it.
So we could have somebody from a different district that come in and sub here.
No, it doesn't
They just
sound like
can't,
it.
or they can't sub
If they were in
in
the,
various districts.
it's the state
Like,
retirement
we couldn't
system.
have a Tri-County retired teacher come here and sub immediately.
Just, they would have 8 days that in a month to use in the area that they're in, so you could do 2 at Beatrice, 2 at Tri-County, 2 at Southern, 2 at Lewiston. Is that 6? And 2 somewhere else, you'd be to 8. So, I know, right?
Numbers are hard.
Let me get my fingers out. So that's how it works. The state has become very, the rules have become very stringent, which is, it would be nice if they would relax some of those right now because of the shortage we're in across the board. All right. Next, we have Mr. Brown up.
I'm just heading for a Q&A. I know Doris had some questions for me. She stopped in yesterday. I think we spent about an hour and a half of quality time together and got some answers. And Doris asked a lot of interesting questions, and some of them I didn't have answers for. And so we got Dr. Lauenstein in to answer those. We learned a lot, didn't we, Doris? So I don't know what other questions you guys have for me.
Well, I think to start the discussion, so we're talking about policy 5103.1, random drug testing for students involved in extracurricular events, and what direction we want to go.
Do we have a copy of that policy?
I do right here,
That would be
and I think
helpful.
it's linked in your Spark.
I'll just go
We'll go make copies for you.
Then we can speed read one we are doing, is right.
Yeah, right. The ultimate decision for this will come in November. No, excuse me, October. So unless we decide to table it again, which you can always do if you want more time to think about it. But the reality is, Mr. Brown has just been, in the work he's been doing here the last several years, has been gotten to a point where you really wonder if this is, the bang is worth the buck, so to speak. So that's kind of where we're at. And as we talked about it previously in August, I think it was, then we just decided to table it and have more discussion. So really, we're here tonight just to discuss that whole thing and let you ask your questions. And then when you're ready to decide to vote on it, we'll put it on the agenda. If you feel like that's in October, great. If you'd like more time, we can talk about it longer.
Okay, so I guess a question that I have is, you made a statement that we would need to revamp the policy significantly in order to continue with drug testing. What are you talking about?
Okay, so right now, the kid comes in as a freshman, and if they want to be involved in activities, they fill out the form to be entered into our drug policy or our drug testing. They stay in that pool their entire 4 years unless they opt out of it. So we have kids that come in their freshman year, and then they might not place any activities, they might not be out for speech, drama, anything like that for the following 3 years, but they're still in that pool, they don't fill out the paperwork. So we have a lot of students in our pool that are not actually involved in the activities. So they can be pulled random drug tests, and they're not like, why am I doing this? Well, because you did not opt out of our system yet.
What was the rationale in the beginning for not?
My understanding was that, so a student can come in and say, okay, I'm gonna play football, so I opt in, then I'm gonna opt out for basketball season, so I'm not in there, and then I'm gonna opt back in if I wanna be a track athlete, or back in and out the entire time, was my understanding. So let's say.
So that would be something that we would have to change in the policy.
If we're gonna have a pool of of our, like if we're in the fall, if we're gonna have a pool of our fall personnel, yes, we'd have to do that. And then we'd actually, we'd probably have to say, okay, in the wintertime, we're gonna have everyone submit the paperwork again. If who wants to be it, we'd have to collect it again.
So is there any legal requirements that we have to have the opt-in, opt-out? Or opt-in at least, or can you, I'm just asking,
Well, I mean,
could you have a policy to say, we are going to random drug test every athlete each season? Or,
yes, you could do that. You can set your number, whatever you want it to be set at.
but does there have to be a parental consent?
Well, with our policy, to be involved in activities, they have to sign a consent form. Is how our policy's written.
But there was a separate consent, if I remember right, going back 6 years ago, for just the drug testing, right? Or-
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or parents can opt their child out also.
If they're gonna be involved in activities, they have to be in it.
Okay.
But if they're no longer in it, that's when they come in and sign the paper that they're not going to be in that.
The student can sign the paper.
No,
The parent has
The
to.
parent has to. We
But
do that.
here, there's this little thing that says, if, let's say the football player comes in and opts out, says, I'm done with football now, and I'm not gonna do anything, but then it says, students may re-enter the testing pool after a period of 1 calendar year by filling out a new authorization to test form. So that means they would miss the next football season. And we don't really know why that little caveat was placed in there. That I think is what I was very confused
And
about that.
I would agree with Doris. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me if you have a kid who's gonna play football, and that's the only extracurricular activity they're gonna participate in, that they aren't able to opt out for the rest of the school year, and then come back in the following year, and say, I'm gonna play football again, and then you go back into the pool. How many kids do you have on your list?
I would say we are probably 250 to 300.
Because it includes all extra,
And kind of all extra.
Right.
not just athletics.
Yeah.
And so we've had 4 positive tests in 2 years.
So I guess my question goes back to, without sitting here and reading the whole policy and you waiting for me to do that, what in the policy would need to be changed to make it more work?
I think if we're gonna move forward, that we need to have, where, like they said, we're gonna do the fall athletes, the kids are involved in fall activities, and then we'll do the kids are involved in winter, and the kids are involved in spring. And now, if they're, the thing we'd have to, there's 1 or 2 ways you can do it, is you can either have them fill out the paperwork every single time, okay? Or you can have them come in and opt out. If they don't come in and opt out, they're gonna be in that pool. And that's kind of where we're at right now, is they're not opting out of it. So I don't see the parents, your son or daughter plays a fall activity, and are you gonna fill the paperwork for them to be out in the spring, or in the winter time? So to me, there's gotta be some consistency of, we're gonna redo the paperwork every single time, or how are we gonna get those people out of there?
Does there have, legal, and you may not be able to answer this, guys, but does there legally have to be a consent to even drug test, random drug test? So could there be a board policy, again, hypothetically speaking, to say all activity participants could be subject to random drug testing, consent or not?
I'm guessing you guys have parent consent.
I was gonna say they're minors, so I
Yeah.
would say that they need to have their parents' consent,
Right.
because they're minors. If they're 18, maybe not.
And then if the parent does not consent to that, then they're out.
Yeah, they can't participate.
Can we do it online?
We're getting there. We've signed up with a program called Rank 1 that we're just learning about, that is gonna be an activity form where they can fill out the forms and just hit a button and it comes to us. And then we have an electronic or digital copy of everything. So we got introduced that right before the fall season started, and so we're learning, and it took some time for us to get our student base put in there. Actually, our new athletic trainer is the one that brought it to us. And it's a great tool for her to communicate with parents about injuries and stuff. So we're working through that. We're hoping to be able to roll it out this winter, but we're still learning.
Because I would think that would make it easier for parents, kids may not be taking the form home and having them sign it, but if they could do it online.
Yeah. Because it's actually attached to all the forms we did, it's the back of the drug policy is the form they have to fill out. And then, so,
I guess my opinion too is, you know, when this policy was put in place, I don't know what the exact date was. It's been quite a few years. That's how long you've been
Right.
here.
Yeah.
I'm starting year 3, so it's.
So it's, I mean, it was well before you. You know, I think also at that time, we didn't have the SROs in the school, correct? Or it was just starting?
Well, I've been here 6 years and this was in place before I got here.
Yeah, and,
So,
you know, and I think, you know, just with that is also a deterrent, and, you know, I asked the question to Jason, I go, is there any times when, Zach or Officer Lowenstein, you know, can do some random checks with Toro,
Mhm.
you know, those types of things, so I think, again, that's a huge deterrent too, just within this, of course, on school grounds, within the property, that doesn't mean that students can be, you know, in their car at home or whatever using, but I think that's helped significantly, and that's probably why we haven't seen the numbers overall.
Yeah, that's part of the question that back when we first talked about it that I was curious about. Is it effective? Do we have measures that we can count on, evidence-based things that it is effective? Is it cost-effective? And if it's not, we could save $5,000 in the testing and apply that to methods that would be more effective in tackling the substance abuse problem.
On top of that, just administrative time.
You know,
So,
You know, I'm gonna go, it's just based on personal experiences, our kids are involved in activities. Are there kids that use? I'm sure there are, okay. But I can tell you from personal experience that if we have kids that are involved in activities, the other kids will come, they'll tell us, this is what's going on. And we deal with it, and that we probably learn more that way than we do from a random drug test.
I think one of the things I learned through the discussion was there's been a huge change in kinds of drugs, and because of the way the testing the day of the week it happens on, all those things are affect, the use of having Toro there, I mean, all those things have had an impact, and it's more complicated than it just appears. Because when you first presented, it just sounded like, well, we just need to change the procedures, but now I'm not so sure that would even benefit, it would do what we want it to do. So I don't know, I'm still kind
And this is probably bad for me too, I haven't read all the policies, but if a student or a coach or another community member maybe approached, you know, Coach Carper and said, hey, I know one of your volleyball players has been drinking, using, whatever that may be, is that enough then to, you know, have that conversation with that kid and?
We would. I mean, we try to be really proactive with our kids, and we felt like we have developed some really good relationship with our kids, and that they know they can come to us. And we also have the P3 reporting system, you know, that we inform some students today about. Like, hey, if you just know something's going on, you have a way to report to anonymous. And you know, we get those every once in a great while. But it's, I think, developing a relationship with the kids. And right now in the high spot, and I invite all of you to come up and watch the relationships we have built with our kids and watch them. And if something's going on that they don't like, they will come let us know. And you know, the kids that we are targeting are extracurricular activities. If you look at the grade point average, our kids in extracurricular activities have a 1.0 GPA higher than, we're like at 3.1 or 3.2 extracurricular activities. Non-extracurriculars are 2.1. And so you see that, you see the kids that we're targeting are kind of the kids that they're doing what we want them to do. They're being successful. And, you know, not am I saying, you know, only the kids that don't participate? No, I'm not saying that. I guarantee we have kids in our activities that use it, and that's.
Do you test on the same day of the week? and
We
the same
don't.
day of
So
the
what
month?
happens is we submit the names on the first of the month at midnight. I get woke up every week, and my phone dings, and I get the list.
I'll do that for you, I'm up anyway.
So, and that list stays completely confidential until they call me and they set up a time. Because I believe they also use the University of Nebraska, they do they do a lot of businesses, our bus drivers use them, so they do a lot of businesses. And so they call me and say, well, this is the day that we can be there. It might be a Tuesday, it might be a Thursday, it might be the third week of the month, it might be the first week of the month. So we're kind of there, they tell us, hey, when can we come in and get this done?
Are they local people who test?
Yes,
Because, when I worked for the Board of Public Works, I did the CDL.
yep.
random
Diversified,
drug
We have
testing.
the same thing.
Yeah.
diversified drug testing is who
Yeah.
does it, so.
Yeah, well, following that discussion last time and the questions that I had, I did some research. And I did not know what I would come up with, what I would find. So I tried to come up with a balance. What works, what doesn't work, why, where's it coming from? And this packet right here is what I spent quite a few hours putting together. And what I've read from this is that there are problems with randomized drug testing. It doesn't really do what it's supposed to accomplish. And again, the goals, as I just read, the goal of mandatory drug testing program was to reduce student substance abuse in 3 ways. By deterring substance abuse, it's you're testing, stopping them from doing it. Detecting substance abuse, you want to know what's going on there. And by having spillover effects on other students, so students that aren't directly affected, hey, come on, I'm gonna shy away from it too. But I have several studies, starting on page 12 of this document that I have here, that point out that no, there is no spillover. There is no evidence that 1 year later that there's any difference. They're not gaining anything from this. The only thing that does come up in a positive sense is one little statistic here. Again, this is page 12, the first one. Some 16% of students subject to drug testing reported using substances covered by their district's testing in the past 30 days, compared to 22% comparable students. But it's only during that time. After that, that difference disappears. So I am concerned about the rest of the students, all of them, and say, there's no need to test, there's no penalty. Now, because they wouldn't be kicked out of anything. However, they still have that need, and we want to find something, what will work with all the students. So, I have several studies here that, on these last few pages, that address, hey, here are the problems with the drug testing. And then the rest of this document is basically effective drug use prevention. What does it actually take? And what you talked about as relationships, that's big. And are there actually programs that might be instituted on a school-wide basis, not just random individuals? And it turns out that on some of these pages, I've got a whole bunch of programs that have shown effectiveness, and there are links in here. I didn't have enough pages to print out that said, here's a whole set, and here's how they're rating. And this is more than just nationwide, it's a international search. So as I've read more and more into this, I'm persuaded that we should be investing some effort, time, money into checking out some of these programs that can do better. There's one thing, we all deal with emotions and say, this works, this doesn't work. I feel that, hey, if it saves one person, hey, that kind of thing. But, okay, here's a whole list of things that have been shown not to work in programs. And that includes things like arousing fear, scary images, shown not to work. One-time assemblies or events, that kind of program isn't going to work. Personal testimony from people in recovery. Surprisingly, that doesn't work. And again, why don't some of these things work? It's the mentality of the students, the people that you're dealing with, they are not reasoning on the same level. They're picking up messages that we don't intend. So it's having to take people who understand the psychology, what's going on. That's going to actually find what are the things that do work, which include building social and personal skills, cite the immediate consequences, communicate positive peer norms, involve youth in peer-led things, use the interactive approaches, stuff like that. To quote here, as a field, we've moved far beyond just say no and this is your brain on drugs. I remember those programs
Yeah.
and those ads that were around. They don't work. In our hearts, we felt like these strategies were effective because they're simple and direct. But without, well, tempering our heart knowledge, our strong desire to help with our head knowledge, our growing understanding of what works and doesn't work, we risk squandering resources, that's from study, or even hurting those we intend to help. The rationale of, if it helps just one, fails if our actions harm 30 others in the process. So, in my mind, I don't want to be the one enforcing drug testing. As some people, hey, don't mind. But I feel that if I were to take someone, hey, you need to be tested. Why? I'm not doing anything. Their parents complain. Boy, it was a big to-do and creep when they instituted this stuff.
Yes,
And
there
I say,
is.
no, I would rather find ways of expanding programs that do work, but that's gonna take effort. I've got lots of resources here, but that's just the beginning of finding something that would be effective. And, so I'm interested, what are the real problems, what are the real solutions? That's what I'm trying to attempt by this.
Are there any other questions?
Appreciate the research.
Yeah,
Thanks.
thank you
Thanks for
very
doing the
much,
research.
Thank you, guys. Like I
Thank
said, anytime if you want to stop up, if you have questions, we'll sure spend some time with you. And you'll get a Reese's peanut butter cup. So.
Is that why she got that?
Yeah,
She
so-
did. We had a funny moment. She said, well, I like Reese's peanut butter cups.
I'm gonna come every day.
Well, come on. Come on. So,
I'll tell you exactly what you have to say.
Doris knows the secret code.
Next, we're going up is superintendent evaluation process, Mr. Trustee and Mr. Alexander.
All right, well, it is that time of the year that it's evaluation time for Mr. Alexander. So we're, as we talked about at the last board meeting, we're gonna use the state association again to complete the survey. It's just easier, it's an online, they compile all the data and then present us with the report. So we did ask them on some of the questions that did not necessarily apply to Jason, and so there will be a not applicable response on those questions. So that'll be included within that. The timeline will be, so starting next Tuesday, October 3rd through Monday, October 9th, Jason will complete his self-evaluation during that time. And then on Wednesday, October 11th, NASB will send the board self-evaluation results, so we'll get to see how he rated himself. And then the actual survey for us to complete on Jason will open on Wednesday, October 11th through Friday, October 20th. So that's when we will complete the evaluation, and then they will present a final report and executive summary. It'll be emailed to me by Friday, October 27th, and then we'll share that information at that point.
So I'm new to this, is that, do you get that through an email?
Yep, you'll get it through your school
That's how you fill it.
email,
Okay.
and it's an online survey. go through and, comments and then questions, there's a scale, I can't remember the exact scale. You'll rate each question and then give comments. So part of this as well is, we had, last year we had Jason complete some goals, so those goals will be included in that evaluation, so you'll be able to see kind of, what the goal was. He has some comments as far as progress towards those goals, and we'll be able to rate those as well. And then I would like to do the same process next year, where then, once we get the evaluation completed, Jason comes up with, and we share those with the board, 2 to 3 more goals for next year that we again evaluate going forward. I think that process has worked good. I mean, it's, like I said, it's better than us manually doing it. We obviously have to do it as a board, and it's just a lot simpler. And I think the cost is only $400.
Yeah.
So it's minimal cost for them to administer it, which I think is a great deal.
Plus, I think it'll be much more effective if we have that not applicable
Yeah.
choice.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
And I'll make sure and keep you all up to date when that comes out. I'll send my self-evaluation into them when I get it done, and then they'll email you and they'll let me know, but I'll keep you up to date.
Now, are you gonna tell us about the furniture bidding process?
I am, but before I start that, I just want to say thank you to Danielle and Missy, who have both been working.
I'm still here, I'm on the floor.
Yeah, she's still helping with Brett, but they've been tremendously, well, they've taken over the furniture bidding process and gone through multiple magazines and spent hours trying to get the furniture bid as close to what we want it to look like for new furniture in the elementary school. The bidding process itself, once it's sent out, or once the RFP goes out and we get the bids back and select a company to work with, then we can really kind of hone in on a lot of the specifics that are needed. So it goes out kind of general, this is how many desks, this is how many chairs, and they've tried to do a lot of work on being very specific, and it's taken a lot of time. So thank you to both of them for the work that they've put in on it. We wouldn't be where we're at without those two, so.
But just to be clear, we're replacing necessary furniture that needs to be replaced, not all furniture.
Correct.
All right, thank you.
And we know that there are things that we will take, and we will go through a process with teachers probably after the first of the year, where they will be identifying those things that they want to take. We know, for example, that in one school, we have 120 to 150 wobble chairs. So we don't necessarily need to order that many more wobble chairs, which I know that may not mean a lot to you what that is, but it does to us. And so we know that that's not something we need to order. So we've taken what we think we will be able to utilize already and taken that off the furniture bid. So you're right, Doris, necessary. So anyway, the timeline that's in front of you is that we wanted tonight to just update you on some of the work that's been done. In the next week or two, we would like to publish the notice to bidders, and we'll put that in the Beatrice Daily Sun. There's other places we can advertise as well, but we want to definitely make sure that we give the local opportunity for bids to come in. We would put a bid deadline on it for a week, and then review RFPs as they come in around November 6th, make a recommendation to the board either November 13th or the December meeting, just depending on where we're at with the bid process coming in. The thing you don't know is what that number is actually going to be. And so if it comes in and it's way higher than what we thought or way lower than we thought, then we want to allow ourselves some time to adjust it before we bring it to you. So that will be part of what we do. But all of this will follow policy 3130 purchasing that is outlined in our policy, our board policies that we work through. So we wanted to update you on that. And then we work to finalize product selections from November 14th to December 15th and place an order by January 1st. The reason that's important is because of the lead time that it will take to have all that furniture made and ready for August, the start of the school year. With that, I would just tell you that in relationship to the furniture and everything, and the building schedule is on track, and they even think maybe a little bit ahead. So as we transition into the winter months, we feel really good about where we're at timing wise. So we want to do this the right way, and of course, we want to follow policies and the laws that we have to, but we want to also allow ourselves enough lead time to get the furniture here before the start of the school year, so it's ready when kids come in. So just wanted to outline that. Any questions? Okay.
Will you give us another report, some more stuff?
I do. I just have a few things to update you on. There'll be a couple policies in the coming months that we will be asking you to take a look at. One of them is graduation dress code. That's something that we're going to have to take another look at. We revamped it a little bit, but there's just some things that we want to make sure as we recognize our graduating seniors that you as a board are okay with or not okay with, and that we've had that conversation with you. So that's one. And then the other policy that I'm not sure that we'll be taking a look at or not is the naming policy. We're trying to make sure that as we open the new school, we're also trying to raise some funds with the ability for people to honor other people that they might want to give a donation in the name of. So we want to make sure we do that the right way as well. I don't think the way the policy is written right now, I don't think myself in reading it that there would be any need for any change. I think it's okay the way it is, but just to have that conversation with you and make sure you're okay with it as well. So, and then lastly, just 3 quick items for you to be kind of mulling over or thinking about. Next week is homecoming week, so we're excited about that. It's a great opportunity. Homecoming week is always special. It's great to have kids come back. We got a special message from Cam Jurgens today through the football team did through Facebook. It was really a cool message, so that was a neat thing. Just an exciting time. So that starts Monday. The committee of the whole meeting for the month of October right now is set for October 26th. That's a Thursday. Traditionally, we've moved that to a Tuesday, so everybody here with kids and we as a district hand out candy that night at the night of the Great Pumpkin. So we'll probably be sending out a survey in the next couple of weeks if you're okay moving it to the Tuesday before that, so we can participate in that activity as we have in the past years. And it's a great opportunity to be in the community a little bit too. And then finally, budget materials were hit. SIND was hit today on all budget materials, so they went to the state auditor, county clerk, and the Department of Education. So that is done. That's all I have.
Well, since there's nobody here, I guess nobody will be talking.
I'm somebody. Brett.
Yeah, it's red.
You didn't fill out the paperwork. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I move that the Board of Education of District 15 adjourn.
Second?
Second.
Your votes, please. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
This meeting is adjourned.
And anticipate the work on the road on Court Street to be done
Be in favor.
Oh,
by
yeah.
that time.
Because
I don't even go downtown.
Yeah.
Oh.
Friday.